Thoughts about building shared ownership priorities for your school for next year, and then I'm going to bring up a really good question that Katie and Mary had.
We talked about so we have, pretty good quality grade level chairs, but we originally were going to have them do the slideshow themselves. Like we did it last year, but have them do it themselves in their groups.
Yep.
So we thought that we need to bring that back together as a whole school, but maybe not let them know that they're going to do it eventually, but not let them do it the first time. And then the first time we would do it, and then we would work with them, each pick a person and work with them to make theirs, and then by I3, they would make their own to present, so it's sort of scaffolding for them.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the next section, which is going to be skill building. But yeah, I think that's a really good plan. Other thoughts about shared ownership, like what you want other people at your school site to be able to do, or how to build that? Thanks. Jeff?
High schools tend to be a little more content heavy, so we want our department chairs to identify what are the real sort of core our standards that we want people looking at.
And that speaks to Mary and Katie's question, which was what do you do with secondary school? Because it's less of the focus on the grade team, and I think exactly what you've said, have departments meet together, even if it's across grades. The only way we really did that at Elm City is with our upper grade math teachers, because we just have one math teacher on second, third, and fourth grade, so they would meet together, and just everybody would analyze everybody's data and work on everybody's plans, and it was a good use of time, I think. Okay. We're going to move on, but slow me down. It's going too fast. So then there's skill building, because you want to have a teaching staff that's really good at analyzing data and figuring out next steps, and you also want to build skill in your grade team leaders, coaches, department chairs, whoever it is that's going to be running and facilitating these meetings. So we are now in tab 5, and the documents that are here in tab 5 are about teacher skill building mostly. So we like to give a couple, traditionally, I am not very good at preparing things well in advance, but we learned the hard way that teachers are going to come to day-to-day really well prepared. They need a couple weeks of lead time. So a couple of Fridays before day-to-day, we start doing PDs on just how to use Athena, what reports to pull, and how to look at Athena reports, and also look at F&P running record forms, step tests, conferencing notes, and use that data to make a good data-driven plan. So this is just an example of a cheat sheet that our second grade chair shared with his team to figure out sort of what reports to look at when you're just getting your feet wet with this, and how to do a DDP. And then if you flip past that Athena cheat sheet, there's just an example of one of my DDPs. So a couple of their coaches and me would do our DDPs a week in advance, and we would walk the staff in staff meeting through what our data looked like, what questions we asked ourselves when we thought about it, and how it went into the DDP. And then every day to day, I would do my DDPs. I taught kindergarten reading last year, a week in advance of when data was due for other people, because that was not platform data. It was F&P and step tests, and I would send it out to everybody to be remember, this is the level of analysis we're looking for, and this is how I did it. So those are two things we would do. And then also, we would spend a lot of time in coaching meetings in the week leading up to day-to-day, making sure that everybody came well prepared. So the coaching meeting the week before day-to-day, bring all your F&P record forms, let's look through them together, find some trends, work on the DDP, so that people are coming to day-to-day with the key sections of the DDP already completed and well completed, completed after having looked thoroughly at data. And then what can come out of the day is group problem solving about misconceptions and reteaching strategies and planning moving forward. So all the basic stuff that people can do on their own has been done ahead of time, but it's been done with somebody, at least until you know that people are really clear on what they're doing. And then we've also found over the day-to-days that things come up that we didn't realize teachers needed skill building about. So we would always plan for day-to-days in advance, and then at our coaching meeting, the meeting of all the coaches, right after the day-to-day, we'd sort of debrief, how did the day go? Like what went well in your meetings, what was difficult, what was not as effective. And then for the next day-to-day, we'd do some skill building around that. So one thing that was very ineffective that came up at one point was that teachers were looking at the next IA, which is a great thing to do. You want to know what students will be measured on in 6 weeks, but they were using it in unideal ways and just trying to figure out sort of how to game the test, like how to teach those question types, how to prepare students really specifically for the IA, which is not going to be effective, especially over time. So when we noticed that happening one day-to-day, we did some skill building before the next day-to-day where we said, like, well, what's an effective way to look at the test? So the last document you'll see in tab 5 is just like a really simple graphic organizer that we did at a PD. Like, look at the upcoming IA, list out the potential misunderstandings or misanswers that might happen, but then figure out what the desired response would be rather than the misunderstanding, and then what's the visual anchor that's going to teach that standard. Like, let's not prep the question type. Let's not figure out how to teach these vocabulary words or this wording, but what's the concept they might misconstrue, and then what's the visual anchor that will lead them down a different path. And then we use the same graphic organizer in meetings until people were thinking in a way that we thought would be more effective. So that's a lot of how we did skill building for teachers. And then in terms of skill building for grade level chairs, coaches, and department chairs, it was a lot of sort of I, we, you. So in the beginning, we would always have a dean or the principal leading the meetings, preparing the agendas, doing the initial analysis, presenting the slideshow. And then we did a lot of we day-to-days where we'd meet with the grade team leader or coach ahead of time, look at all the data and just talk through, like, what are you seeing here? What am I seeing? Let's pick out the key standards. Now let's write an agenda around this. You know, what do you think your team most needs to hear? How can we most effectively present that? And we also did a lot of role playing around what might happen if things come up in the meeting that are ineffective. Like, if people in your meeting start just blaming the test, like, how are you going to handle that? If people keep just trying to shuffle kids down in the next group, next lowest group, if they're struggling, how are you going to handle that? And actually talking it through and practicing. It took a lot of time. So one thing that we would do, and this, Claire, does not really speak to work-life balance, so I apologize, but in the like week before day-to-day, there's always one night when we'd order in a lot of takeout and have everybody that was prepping it stay late if they wanted to, and just like all sit around a round table together and sort of hash things through. You know, like, why do you think all these kids in 4th grade are stuck at F&P level S? Like, look at these F&P results and tell me what you think. And then we get a lot of people thinking about it because we do want to come to day-to-day with a lot of things pre-thought through. You know, like, these are the standards the group is going to think about together. You don't want to spend your meeting time with everyone with their Athena printout going, okay, which standards are red? Can everybody find red? Like that, people can clearly do on their own. So we wanted to have really thought about what are some effective ways to have people think in the meetings themselves. So those are my thoughts on skill building. Let's take any questions, additions.
So one of the questions that I've heard in the meetings that I've had is, how do you get your data ready early enough for that leadership team to be able to look at it and do that pre-thinking? Because a lot of schools are sort of getting the data in right up to day-to-day and we're ready to go. So how did y'all tackle that problem?
Harris heard me answer this last week because someone asked it, and the only answer I had was get your data in early and scan fast. So this is a plug for get your data in really early and scan fast, because the faster you scan, the earlier your schedule is, the faster teachers get their tests to your ops team, the faster you get it back, the better prepared you can be. In a small school, that's a lot easier. At Elm City, Kevin Sharkey, our Dean of Culture and math coach, would like grab the piles of tests off teachers' desks and like hand score the open response parts himself and then run them over to Monica to put through the IA scanner. So I think just, did I have a better answer last week or just get it ready fast?
The schedule, some of the data comes online sooner, and And so just thinking through when are the tests administered, when are they scored, are you relentless about getting your teachers to turn in their graded tests?
Yeah.
And like really making sure the operational aspects of the administration and scanning are happening so that your data is ready. And I do know schools, even though the official IE schedule might start on October 13th, we'll say, you know, we're starting on the 12th. And we're going to go a day early because we want to test in a day early to get our data ready. And that's fine. I mean, we can't have data getting in after day to day, but you certainly can have it coming in before day to day.
Also, just whenever your FMPs are due, like making sure that's like a week out, because that takes a lot more time sometimes to really look through, like what are the miscues and misconceptions in this data. So scheduling that well in advance can also be good. All right, let's take 2 minutes to think about skill building, like sort of what are key priorities? What do you want people definitely able to do by day 5?